At 9:30 p.m., not a soul passed by. Sitting leaning against a roadside tree in the pitch-black village, James felt impatient as if fire burned inside him. He had never felt time pass so slowly. Heart fluttering, face unable to hide the tension, James fumbled taking out the crumpled cigarette pack, putting one between his lips. With the lighter flicking open, his flushed face was glimpsed along with the bottle of liquor beside him, already drunk more than half. He took continuous drags, exhaling smoke with languid sighs. The wind gusted in spurts. Flashes of lightning zigzagged as if wanting to tear open the jet-black sky. "A storm is coming. Even better," he muttered softly. Just after tonight, everything would completely change. He would have money to repay his gambling addict father's debts, money to fix up the rickety house. And most importantly, he would have money to propose to Jenny, the most beautiful girl in the village who he had loved for a long time. He had gone to Jenny's house to play many times and hinted at wanting to marry, but her parents always showed disdain, often insinuating in front of James. When a girl marries, she must choose someone with good financial means so she won't suffer later. Don't be blindly in love and marry someone with no stable job, poor as a church mouse. Then what will you live on? At that time, you'll just sit around cursing and blaming each other, with regrets too late. Jenny's mother. Mrs. Wilson's voice still haunted his mind. "My husband and I have only one daughter. Raising her for over 20 years to be all grown up and beautiful like this, I don't want my daughter to suffer in the future. If you have a stable job and decent proper family, we won't forbid it because we know you truly love Jenny." But as it is now, just think about your own circumstances. You're already over 30. Ask yourself, what do you have? At first hearing this, he felt very hurt and offended, but thinking it over, she was right. Born already more disadvantaged than others, mother passed away early, his father drowned in alcohol, gambling. Thinking it was just a brief moment to grieve, who knew he would sink deeper and deeper, making their already poor home even more destitute. However much money he earned, he had to pay his father's gambling debts and loans. While his peers the same age already had ample food, clothing, looking at his uncertain, vacillating fate, not knowing when there would be a chance to change his life. James glanced at his girlfriend, seeing her head lowered, appearing embarrassed. He firmly told Mrs. Wilson, "I promise you, by the end of this year, I will have a stable job and move out on my own. I will have lots of money to provide for Jenny. Well, trust me." Waving her hand to interrupt, Mrs. Wilson's voice grew louder. "Enough, enough. I always hear you promise, we'll do this, we'll do that. Yet who knows when you'll actually do it? People with money don't need promises for others to believe them. Those with nothing just make empty promises all day." Speaking, she went into the bedroom. "From now on, I hope you'll give up on my daughter. In the future, find someone suited to your circumstances. Don't dream impractical dreams anymore. Shabby bamboo sticks can never prop up an ivory bed. Please go home." Though Jenny loved James, hearing her mother's whispers every day, she gradually became receptive. Looking at her close friends, those who married rich men seemed happy, eating well, dressing nicely. Those marrying poor men looked shabby, peddling goods to barely get by. Witnessing the truth before her eyes, she became more hesitant about her relationship. Poverty never brings lasting happiness. Remember that. Her mother advised thusly. Jenny began wavering, half wanting to break up, half wanting to give James more time. If he still couldn't establish a career, she would marry Tom, a bright-futured young man, son of the village vice chairman, chosen by her parents. And more importantly, Tom had long had eyes for her too. Though his looks were ugly, maybe now she didn't love him, but later in married life, things might change. That night walking James to the village outskirts, she hesitantly said, "You should take time to focus on your work. We shouldn't meet so often," sensing his girlfriend's detached, aloof attitude. James quickly grasped her hand, speaking harshly. "Hey, what's with this attitude? Didn't you promise me things before? Didn't you yourself say no matter the circumstances, you still wanted to be my wife? Flustered, Jenny pulled her hand from James's explanation, voice full of pent-up resentment and bitterness. Yes, that's right, but living also requires some realism. We've loved each other 3 years. I've waited for you to stabilize your work, but when will that be? When? Answer me, James mumbled, head lowered slightly. Eyes brimming with tears, Jenny continued. The house is dilapidated and lacking. Your father just gambles all day, and when not gambling, drinking and causing trouble, yelling and swearing. I feel for you, but you should also think about my life. Hearing his girlfriend speak, James suddenly felt heavy-hearted. He gently consoled. I'll have money, trust me, and wait just a little longer. We'll move to the district town, I promise. Jenny silently went back inside, her mood tangled, put in a difficult position, feeling both pity for James, yet also worried about her own fate. James called after her. I hope you'll also keep your promise to me. We'll marry soon. Since then, James diligently and hard-workingly did all sorts of jobs to make a living, but any small savings he had would immediately be needed. Several months ago, he had 15 million, a large sum for him, earned only with great difficulty from construction work. Before he could enjoy it for long, his father became seriously ill and had to be transferred to the district hospital for treatment of liver disease from excessive drinking. Hospitalized for 2 months, James had to abandon his work to care for him, the money also completely spent. Difficulties piled upon difficulties. Many times he could only resentfully blame heaven for treating him so unfairly. Others had a basic foundation in family when building their careers, if not material, then at least spiritual. Whereas he only had a big fat zero and a burden weighing heavily on his shoulders. After being discharged from the hospital, James showed a stern attitude towards his father for the frustrations and difficulties he had caused. Mr. Adams also realized his mistakes and said, Son, I know you've struggled a lot. From now on, I promise to gradually give up drinking and gambling so you can work at ease. But, James looked up and asked, What else is the but? I don't need you to make money. Just stay home and rest. Don't let me feel ashamed in front of Jenny's family. That's all I need. Or can I not even have that? Mr. Adams waved his hand, face twisted regretfully. I can quit. But right now, I still owe people another 20 million. If you could just help me pay it off. 20 million? Are you crazy? Do you know how much that is? Hearing James yell, eyes bulging angrily, Mr. Adams bowed his head down, mumbling explanations. I know I was wrong. At this age, I should be your spiritual support, yet I made such a big mistake instead. It was only because I wanted more money to properly renovate the house to others. Mr. Adams trailed off, seeing his son staring pensively out the door, placing a hand on James's shoulder, tone mournful and contemplative. Don't think I don't notice or care about things. I know they look down on our poor family, so still haven't agreed to you and Jenny. That's why I felt powerless and discouraged. At this old age, I have little ability to work and earn money, so I could only rely on gambling to find some luck. If I won, then I could still provide for you somewhat. Who knew? I only made you suffer more. James sighed, looking back at his father with more understanding. All right, I'll try to help you this one last time. In the future, leave me in peace. I also need to have my own life. I'm exhausted. Thanks to his resourcefulness, diligence, and a stroke of luck, James got accepted into the village's funeral organizing team. The initial income wasn't much, but more stable and less tiring. He was temporarily satisfied with that, though in his heart he still felt anguished because it would take a long time to save up capital. Whether Jenny could wait until then or not was uncertain. A few days ago, at Mr. Walker's funeral, a wealthy, well-known village lumber tycoon, One strange thing he discovered when helping the family place Mr. Walker's body into the casket: a large gold ring on the left hand's middle finger and a gold chain over two tails, heavy with embedded gemstone visible through the shirt. With just a glance at their size, he estimated they were worth around $100 million in cash if sold. Gold buried with the dead, a practice both strange yet familiar. He didn't know if it was Mr. Walker's dying wish, or the family simply wanted to keep the valuable jewelry that he cherished dearly when alive. Perhaps for that reason no one dared remove them now, so his soul could rest peacefully in the afterlife. But maybe a few years later, when the grave was exhumed, they would take this gold back. But no matter the reason, James didn't care to find out. He only knew this was the chance to change his life. The most important thing to him now was money. The more the better. Money could change everything. More importantly, with money, no one would dare look down on him anymore. Working for others all day, when would he ever get rich? But to run a business and get wealthy required capital. After thinking it over, he devised a plan for himself. A crazy deed: dig up Mr. Walker's grave to steal that gold. Tonight was the best opportunity to carry it out. He also needed the money urgently. So many things depended on this sum to resolve. James planned very carefully. After taking this gold, he wouldn't immediately use it to avoid suspicion. Next, he would leave for the district town, considered going there to find his fortune. Then he would sell the gold to get a large sum of money. There, he would rent a shop space to open a cafe, drink stall, and bring his girlfriend to live together. Jenny wouldn't have to worry about anything anymore. Life would be different, the future brighter. Things like ghosts had never concerned James much. After all, he had never seen one. Dead is dead, he thought. If digging up a corpse scared him one bit, the fear of being discovered by others scared him 10 times more. He told himself there were two choices: have everything to change his life, or lose everything. But this was no joke. At the minimum, he'd be beaten by the family, at worst jailed for years. That was what worried him most. He had to act very carefully, not let anyone see or suspect. James, why are you sitting here? Lost in thought, James was slightly startled, eyes bulging, looking over. Tom was standing before him, flashlight brightly shining in hand, both surprised and annoyed by his sudden appearance at the wrong time. Though their work both involved the dead, unlike James on the funeral team, Tom was a professional grave builder in the village. They'd known each other since childhood, but he didn't like Tom's personality at all. Reluctant attitude, James curtly replied, shaking the liquor bottle in hand. Drinking. Can't you see? Tom burst out laughing, plopping down opposite James, taking the bottle to inspect it, saying, "Drinking here, alone, almost a stormy night like this. You think I believe that?" James snatched back the bottle, speaking harshly. "None of your damn business what I do." Hey, why so hot-tempered, friend? I was just asking. Must be up to something, right?" The moment he discovered James sitting here, Tom had quickly sensed something going on, though not clear, but James's attitude and the sack glimpsed behind the Bodhi tree that the flashlight helped him notice many irregular things. Seeing James silent, Tom probed, "Need me to help with anything? Lately work is slow, hardly earning anything. My wife's about to give birth, so I need money." Hearing Tom speak, James pondered a moment, thinking to invite him along since two people working would be faster. But doing so meant splitting that gold in half, which he absolutely did not want. James's attitude softened. He had to gently get rid of him soon anyway. Took a deep drag, then exhaled smoke. But not now. In a few days I'll call if anything comes up." "That's great then." Tom's eyes lit up, but still not fully convinced. He asked, "But tonight, anything you need my help with? Must be very important, right?" Hearing Tom's prying, James was startled, flustered. He laughed it off. "Oh no, nothing at all. Met some vexing things today, so came out here to drink alone." Seeing Tom nod, James feigned concern. "Hey, your wife's pregnant. Who knows when she'll go into labor? And a storm's coming. Just go home and look after her. I'll call you in a few days. I'm about to start big business in the district town. Lots of work for you." "Yeah, remember that. If you need anything, just say so. I'm very free these days." Tom smiled happily, but eyes still glanced at James's sack. He stood up. "Well, I better get going." James replied, "Yeah, I should head home too. The big storm is almost here," watching Tom's hulking figure walk away holding the flashlight. James sighed, mouth muttering curses, though he now felt much more relieved inside. Tilting his head back to loudly gulp the remaining liquor in one go. The alcohol quickly soaked into his muscles, stirred up, flushing heat throughout his body, overriding the vague fear that had begun flickering. His mind felt slightly dizzy, excited. The large sack under the Bodhi tree held the shovel, crowbar, hammer, some nails, and a flashlight. The small knife was strapped at his hip. Just that was plenty for him to carry out his task. The years as a construction worker provided much experience. He carefully picked up the sack and headed off, his shadow blurred amidst the vast night draped in fog. The dirt path leading to the fields, or as the villagers called it, the ghost funeral road, where Mr. Walker was buried just days ago. Already desolate in the day, even more bleak, dreary, and chilling at night. "I have to hurry, finish before dawn." He urged himself on, footsteps hastening with the gusting winds blowing hard against him. His worn sneakers blended with the grass rustling on both sides of the path. In the sky, lightning still flashed sporadically, zigzagging as if wanting to tear open the pitch-black curtain. James abruptly halted. There were sounds like approaching footsteps from behind. A sense of unease suddenly arose in his mind, as if someone was following him. James stood still, whipping his head around. Behind was just the long dirt path, a few ancient trees swaying leaves in the wind like arms waving him over. The toads' intermittent croaking from the fields echoed eerily, ominously between the stillness of night. Who would dare come out here now? He muttered, then practically ran into the ghost funeral ground. Hazy fog shrouded the hundreds of graves, large and small, new and old, laid haphazardly in rows along the path. The deeper he went, the colder and gloomier it became. It wasn't difficult to find Mr. Walker's grave amidst the few dozen others surrounding it. He himself had come here with a funeral team to witness the burial. Like a tall mound of dirt, covered in withered flower wreaths, weeds already sprouting up. He sat down, staring intently at Mr. Walker's portrait engraved on the still cement-fragrant gravestone. A 70-year-old man with a wide forehead, large nose, and thick, sagging jowls. The most striking feature on his face were likely the fierce eyes, always boring sharply into the inner psyche of the person opposite him.